Evening. Welcome to This Week in Metropolis. I am James.
And here's Johnny. On this episode, as you probably guessed, looking at the background, we are talking about Halloween because Halloween is coming up on Sunday as time recording. And yeah, we're going to be talking about Scream because they've remade it. We're going to be talking about how many sequels films have, which horror movies, for one, out of all the genres, seem to churn out so many sequels, and we're going to be comparing which ones have the most. And we're going to have a question from Question Mark again about who is our favourite horror creator. So stay tuned.
Yeah, but before we get into the episode, we just want to say thank you to everyone who follows us, who subscribes to our channel, and who hits that like button on all the random stuff that we push out there on the socials. Keep following us. Keep telling your friends. Let them know. Get more people following This Week in Metropolis, and we'll be forever grateful. But now it's time for... Here we go. Episode 7, the Halloween special, Matt. Before we get into that, the ticker down the bottom tells you everywhere on the socials where you can find us. The majority of them are at This Week in Metropolis. Just search for us. But if you need to, they're scuttering along down the bottom there, like creepy crawlies specifically for Halloween. How are you, Matt?
I'm good. I got my Uncle Fester haircut ready for the show, as you can see.
Yeah.
And looking forward to this episode because we did last year, which seems crazy. It was a year ago. Where we did a bit of a Halloween special where we was talking about our favourite horror movies. And I think that was a really enjoyable one. It's a genre that I don't visit enough. And from doing the research on this show, today is one that definitely I want to start. I was reading about lots of different films and thinking, man, I need to watch that, or I need to watch that again. Is generally the theme that I found throughout it. So yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, if we're going to start talking about horrors, we need to, and it's not usually our thing, but I watched the biggest horror show on Sunday, and that was my team, Man United, losing 5-0 at home to our arch rivals, Liverpool. Oh, it makes my blood boil just thinking about it. It was a horror movie. That is the only way I can describe it. I hope that there are some Liverpool fans going to be watching tonight, whenever. This will be out tomorrow as well. You'll be able to see it. Well, straight after the show, you'll be able to watch it, I imagine, if you're not watching live.
And as of midnight this evening, it will be on all podcasting platforms. So yeah,
exactly. But before we get into that, the other big horror story is I got rid of my beard. What have I done? I've done it again.
Which is a bit of an error. What you need to be doing is, now it's getting into winter, you need to be growing your hair rather than sort of cutting it off.
Exactly. What an idiot. It was a spontaneous decision. No other reasons. But yeah. Are you a big Halloween fan? I know we're going to be talking mainly kind of movie related stuff, but Halloween in general, do you get involved? Do you get the boys involved?
We've got, well, currently the house is decorated in Halloween stuff because we don't normally make a big fuss out of it. And the boys getting a bit older now, so trick or treating isn't really a thing. But certainly my wife absolutely loves it. We get on decorations out. We've decorated the house. We are having friends over on Friday, a bit of an early Halloween party. So this year,
where was the invite?
In particular, you're not invited. So yeah, it's, so yeah, it'll be good. Looking forward to it.
Good.
It was an excuse to catch up with a particular group of friends, or a couple of their kids that we haven't seen since pre-lockdown. So yeah, it's been a long while. So don't take it personally. Is what I'm saying.
Was it other James?
No, it's not other James. Actually, no.
Whew, that makes me feel a bit better. Anyway,
rival James.
That's it. Rival James's. What are we kicking off with tonight, Matt?
So, as I said in the intro, sequels are a very common thread with horror movies. And in the first one we're going to start with is Scream, which very, very recently they released a trailer for Scream. And I can tell you, just to give you a teaser of what we're going to talk about a little bit later, Scream now, with this new film that's due to come out, has had 5 films. So this will be the 5th one, which is slightly different, I think, from the others. I mean, the original and the 3 sort of sequels to that, in that this one seems to be a bit of a reboot of the first, in terms of the characters. I would say that are going to be in it. It seems like revisiting the old cast, doesn't it? From what I understand with the trailer.
I mean, they've brought back kind of Neve Campbell's in it. Is it David Arquette?
Isn't it?
Yeah. Courtney Cox. Were they married or are they married?
They were, I think. I don't know if they.
Yeah, because she was Courtney Cox Arquette, wasn't she, for a period of time?
That's right. Yeah.
And I noticed that the title for the film is just Scream. It's not Scream 5 or Scream whatever number it is, or with a sub kind of header to the title. Yeah, I mean, I remember watching. I want to say I've watched at least 1, 2, and 3. I don't recall 4. And that's why I weren't sure whether this was even legit when I saw that it was out and it was just called Scream.
So just some knockoff Scream.
Yeah. But having watched the trailer, I mean, it's one of them ones that doesn't kind of, I don't know, at the time it was kind of quite new. It was that kind of I don't know what sort. It was more thriller than horror, I would say.
Well, I remember it to have gone and see it in the cinema, and I think it was because the age I was 18 when it came out, and that was probably the first sort of scary film or more grown-up film that I saw at the cinema. But I remember that it was a horror film. However, it was. How you doing, Karen? It was a like a comment on life, not a comment on life. It was a comment on the youth, because this killer was going through, the town or the school or whatever and killing all these people. But it was that comment that sort of the young people were almost desensitized to it. It was, there's a murder, but they were sort of making a joke of it rather than being absolutely shocked that this was happening, because they were so used to seeing it in the media and things like that. And it was, I don't know, is a little bit more intelligent, if you know what I mean, which I think a lot of horror movies are, they often have quite a lot of meaning. So yeah, I don't, having not seen the previous ones, the sort of sequels to it, I don't know how they followed in terms of that.
Yeah, again, it was there. I'm sure in the first few there was reoccurring characters, and then all of a sudden we had some new ones pop in, and but the storyline essentially remained the same. It was the guy, but wasn't it always trying to work out who the guy was behind the mask? Essentially,
don't you find out at the end of the first one? Don't you find out who?
Yeah,
who
wasn't it? What's his name? Who we wanted to try and get on the show? Was it? Wasn't him? Was it Matthew Lillard?
Matthew Lillard, yeah. Which I love. He's great.
Well, he was definitely in it. I can't remember whether he was.
No, he was definitely in it. Yeah. Just who did it.
Yeah, just a quick hello to a couple of people. I know Matt, you've already said hello, but Karen's here. Yo lads. Hi,
and
Karen.
And Abigail's, if they're watching.
Hopefully. And out of the blank, Robbie's here. Don't tell me how to feel. Well, we will, Robbie. You'll feel scared because it's Halloween season.
Exactly.
Although in the States, it's kind of a different level Halloween.
Exactly. Robbie's probably already got his face painted, just in preparation for Sunday.
Definitely. So going back to this Scream, would it be the sort of film you'd want to see? Are you interested to see? Because films, I mean, I can't even remember if Scream 4, what year was that out? I mean, you probably got the facts for later, but
Scream I haven't, 4, because the Scream in the list of sequels is very low in terms of how many there is. there were 5 of them, so I didn't write down when that was, but I can't imagine. It's probably
But it feels like a long
2000s,
time
wasn't
ago.
it? Yeah,
Yeah, it feels
it
like a
does
long time
feel
ago.
like a very long while ago.
And if they're just going to kind of rehash what they've done in early, like, what's the point? I mean, at
Exactly.
least with the kind of what's the one that Jamie Lee Curtis is in?
Halloween.
Halloween, yeah. That, funnily enough, it's the theme for this episode. The Halloween movies, although there's loads of them, I couldn't even tell you how many of them there are. 10?
I could, and I
I'm going
will
to
in a
guess.
bit. No,
But don't say anything. I don't know. They feel more horror, even though the concept is quite similar.
Yeah.
Because it's a geezer behind a mask. I don't know. There's just a real grittiness to it as well. For me personally. Whereas when I think now of scary movies, not scary movie, Scream. My point is, they made a whole. We talked about this before, but they made a whole spin-off of this, which was the Scary Movie franchise, which was hilarious at the time. Again, we talked about it on the last episode. They're one of them ones now. When you look back, they're a little bit awkward in some places. But yeah, this one, I'm not sure whether it's still going to have the same impact that it did.
No, I agree.
When we were younger.
Just reflecting on the comments again, evening Phil, thank you for joining us. And no costumes, no. I did say earlier I'd got the Uncle Fester hair, but that's it.
Yeah, and sorry, the beard's gone, mate, so sorry about that.
But with costumes, I think, the biggest thing with Scream, which I think they did successfully, which with certainly is a running theme with some of the other films that we'll talk about tonight, is that it's iconic. Like the ghost-faced mask, when that came out, that was a real thing. I remember my friend Banham, shout out to Banham, he bought one of these things, and I had a flatmate at the time, we were sharing a flat, loads of blokes together. He'd sit there watching telly with this mask on, just like casually, because he loved it so much. You all right? Yeah, I'm all right. Just like with this ghost face mask on. And it was a really big thing.
It was huge, and there was one that one of my mates had that had like a pump with it, right?
Oh,
just a little pump.
With,
and
stuff.
Blood used to push, like, obviously it wasn't real blood.
Or
was it that used to like drip down the mask and everything? Yeah. Karen's come in. Oh God, here we go.
So now I think this is probably Andrew.
It's probably Andrew, but when are you going? Oh yeah, it is. A says, when are you going to talk about the Nightmare at Old Trafford at the weekend? Already done it. If you were here on time, Andrew, I gave a little shout out to the horror show. But that is all we'll say about it for now. Ollie out. Anyway, so do you know what? Like you said, from a merchandising point of view, I had the costume. I had the costume,
which costume?
I wore. Yeah, the whole hood and everything, and the mask. And I went to a party. There's a picture, definitely still on Facebook somewhere, of me at a house party. And SCW, Steve, he was at this Halloween party. Do you want to know what he was dressed as? Have a guess.
It's a Halloween party. He was dressed as that. I'm going to say he was dressed as Drew Barrymore from the Scream franchise.
No, he was dressed as Austin Powers.
Austin Powers, scary. Yeah.
I mean, I think it was a Halloween party. I'm hoping it was, because otherwise it was pretty pointless. I was actually going to wear my Superman outfit tonight, but I didn't feel it was kind of Halloween-y.
No.
I've not, unless I would have done something up here.
Your face up a bit,
which I have really,
or something
which
like
I have
that.
already.
There you go.
But yeah,
so let's move on.
Yeah.
As we said, horror films are famous, or notorious, should I say, for having so many sequels. So I put together a little list. I did a bit of research. What film do you think has the most? I'm going to start with the most here. Peak too early, probably, but and then sort of work my way down.
Well, I'm going to say Halloween.
You are correct. So Halloween in total, What I've done as well is it's not quite sequels because they've rebooted it and things like that. There are 13 Halloween movies in
What?
total. Yeah, which is absolutely wild, isn't it? How many there are?
And can you give us the year for every one?
I can do. Do you want me to do that? It's going to be thrilling viewing, but I can go through it. Let me start. I'll tell you when the first one was. So the first Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis was 1978. It was actually released October the 25th, 1978, if you want the full date. So yeah, it's an
Wow.
incredibly old film, as old as I am. And then sort of you had Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, and then H2O, Halloween H2O 20 years later, Halloween Resurrection, which was then in 2002 was that one. But then they rebooted it. So you then had Halloween, basically just Halloween in 2007, Halloween 2, and then in 2018 you had Halloween again, and then Halloween Kills is the latest one, which was out this year. But then you've got another one which is coming out next year, which I've counted as well, which they've got a date for, which is October next year, called Halloween Ends. Or Never Ends is
it never ends.
The title. But it's I remember the first one. I think, to be honest, the first one is the only one I've ever seen, and it's a brilliant film. It's I don't know, one of the, again, doing from a little bit of research with it, is one of the early sort of what they call slasher films in terms of it was, the story, which I'm sure you'll be interested in hearing because I've got the stories for each of these if anyone forgets what happens. It's about Michael Myers, who was committed to a sanitarium as a child for the murder of his sister, Judith Myers. 15 years later, he escapes to stalk and kill the people of the fictional town of Haddonfield, Illinois. There you go. That's it.
Do you know what? The Halloween films, like I was saying before, they are kind of the more recent ones that I've seen definitely are more intense. And they're like you said, they're a proper slasher movie. Yeah. With that element of him and his creepy ass mask.
Exactly. But again, another, the running theme with these Halloween films is so, like, there's always that sort of iconic figure, isn't there, in it?
I read an interesting fact about the mask the other day.
So did I. I bet I know what you're going to say, because I was going to say it. Go on.
Sorry. No. Is it? Because now I'm going to forget whose it was, but it was someone else's mask, wasn't it? Or was it that it was for someone else?
Well, no. The fact, I'm sure I've got this right, is that it was a Captain Kirk mask turned inside out.
I read it was William Shatner. That's right.
William Shatner. So yeah, it's the same thing. Turned inside out, which I never knew, and I can't remember where I saw that or whatever, but it's quality, isn't it?
That's hilarious. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a massive horror movie fan, so a lot of the Halloween films have kind of I've missed them, really, to be honest, because that wouldn't have been my sort of interest. But anytime I have seen any sort of clip, like even if you're watching something like Gogglebox and they're watching a classic horror movie or whatever, all of them, you're like, Jesus. I mean, mainly because it's picking them particular points. A lot of them, if I think back to like Scream and things like, what was the other one that I always used to think? The one where they always kept having, it was like fate they were going to die, basically.
Oh, Final Destination.
Final Destination, yeah. Like things like that. I mean, there was enough sequels to that as well. I don't know if that's on your list, but with that, it's, you always used to just like be, well, don't go and pick up that whatever, or don't try and climb out the window.
Door. My God,
what are you doing? So yeah, it was always like that.
It's the standard stuff.
What we got here? Netflix recently had a show that explained how they all came about. It said about the mask in that. Okay, well,
I have to check that out.
There you go.
I still have no idea where I heard that gem gmail.com.
I was looking up facts the other day about Halloween. I was hoping to bring them to the show, but they've been misplaced. But one of them that stood out to me, and the other thing is, a lot of Halloween facts are actually all about in America. So
Sure.
nothing against the Americans,
Of
but
course, we love them.
I think it's just a massive thing over there. I think it's like it's up there with Christmas.
Exactly. What do you think is the second most popular then? Not most popular, second most films in a horror franchise? Again, it's a very iconic one.
Nightmare on what's it
Elm
called?
Street,
Yeah.
Friday the 13th. No, sorry, I've got a completely wrong film, haven't I? You're wrong. It's Friday the 13th is the second most.
With Freddy Krueger, yeah?
No, because that is Nightmare on Elm Street. That's what you were thinking of.
I thought he was.
Friday the 13th is Jason Voorhees, who has the hockey mask and
Jason,
the big
Jason,
knife.
yeah.
Which, just to remind you, is focused on the fictional character Jason Voorhees, who was thought to have drowned as a boy at Camp Crystal Lake due to negligence of camp staff. Decades later, the lake is rumoured to be cursed and is the setting for a series of mass murders.
Watchdog need to get into that and start looking into what's going on.
I know that camp is awful. 12 movies they've made of that, which is just endless, isn't it? Again, a very old film. The first one that came out was 1980 for that film, and they made pretty much one a year. Part 2, Part 3. The fourth one, ironically, was called The Final Chapter. Until the next year, they released A New Beginning, and then the Part 6, Jason Lives. 7, The New Blood. 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Don't quite know how that works. Then Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday in 1993.
Honestly, I thought you was going to say Jason Goes to Hollywood.
Goes to Hollywood, that'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? Jason X in 2002. And then there was a crossover film, which I remember, but I never saw, Freddy versus Jason in 2003 from the Nightmare on Elm Street series. And then they rebooted it, I think, in 2009, which was Friday the 13th again. So, yeah, it's crazy. And that's one film I have definitely seen some of that series, but it's probably the less watched one of some of the horror films.
Not seen any of them. Don't think. No of them. But again, wouldn't have been a go-to for me. But I do remember the whole furore around Jason versus
Freddy. Which Nightmare on Elm Street, just as reference, had 9 films. I haven't listed those, but it's still quite a big one, so I thought that was going to be quite near the top. The next one, third in the list, is Hellraiser, which I have never seen any of those films, but I know
that with
Pinheads. Yeah, exactly. There's 10 of those apparently. And the plot, which I didn't know the plot of the franchise focuses on a puzzle box that opens a gateway to a hell-like realm of the Cenobite life forms. The Cenobites are an order of former humans turned monsters who harvest human souls to torture in their sadistic experiments. Feel-good movie.
It was rom-com.
Exactly. And that was from 87 through till 2018. So pretty recent as well, those films. And then the next one, and I think we'll probably wrap that up now because otherwise it gets tedious. Saw. How many Saw films do you think there have been?
I'm gonna say, because they're doing more now. It's almost like a spin-off of that now. If we're including that, it's probably 8 or 9.
9, yeah. And that's including, there was one this year. I didn't even realise one came out. It's called Spiral, which I think is like a spin-off without, I don't know whether it necessarily has the guess of how many Saw ones there was, which is actually from other James. 25 that was. Unbelievable. So,
Mental.
That's quite a big guess, but no, it was 9.
Yeah. 25 from James. But we've also had, this could be Karen, could be Andrew. Remember the bottom Halloween episode? Awesome. I don't remember the particular episode, but I love bottom. So,
Yeah, I'm sure it was
I
amazing.
mean, it would have definitely been a cracker.
Exactly.
Yeah, Saw. We'll go on to that in a bit, but
Mm.
that was pretty grim. Again, it's whether you class it as horror or I think there's a category in between. I think when I think of horror movies, I do feel like you've got to have it's got to be either like ghosts or I'm not talking Ghostbusters, but
Yeah.
it's got to be a bit supernatural for me. I think, as well as kind of scary.
Yeah.
Then you start sliding into like slasher and thriller, and I think they're three very different things.
Saw, I think, started off the whole. I think they lovingly named it like torture porn, didn't they? It was sort of, just mutilation and God knows what, like Hostel, and all of those films came around that time, which I really don't like. To be honest, it's I prefer my absolute favorite horror film is The Shining. Which I just think is incredible, and that the suspense and just the tension in that film is terrifying in itself. It's just an amazing story and an amazing film.
Again, would you call that horror, or would you say it's more thriller?
I would. It's horror because it's got the whole sort of supernatural thing, and it's got the sort of the definitely the sort of not slasher, but the violence and the sort of killing and stuff in it. So yeah, I'd put that in horror. Definitely.
Interesting. Well, talking about our favourites, we've had another one of these sent in.
Question mark. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for having me on again. As it's Halloween soon, I was wondering, who is your favourite creator in the horror genre? So that could be a director, a writer, an author, an artist. I suppose who scares you the most in the horror genre? Question mark.
Well,
great question.
Another great question. Thanks for that, Mark. Well, I mean, before I go into mine, Matt, I'll let you go first. But just naturally, I don't know about you, but names that come to mind are names like kind of Wes Craven and Stephen King. Them big ones. I'm not sure what they've ever actually done, but they're really good ones. What's yours?
My favourite is by far is John Carpenter, but John Carpenter is the guy who did Halloween, so he's responsible for the first Halloween film. But I like it. Definitely love Halloween. I love what he did with that. But I love all of the other films he did as well, because he didn't necessarily stick to horror as such. I mean, the film that came before Halloween was Assault on Precinct 13, which is a great
film.
It's not quite a horror, but it's pretty intense in terms of, they're stuck in a police station. There's this gang, and you don't really know why they're doing it, but they've been killing people all day, and now they're sort of attacking this police station and so on.
Is it with Denzel?
It's amazing. The remake was, yeah.
Right.
But the original was 1974, so I mean, it's a really old film now.
Okay.
But yeah, absolutely fantastic. And he then went on to do some more horror films like The Thing and The Fog, but did loads of other ones that I loved, like Escape from New York with Kurt Russell in it, which is an amazing film. And the other ones that I'd forgot about, like Starman, which has got Jeff Bridges in it, he's an alien who comes down and takes the human form of a widow's dead husband, basically, and then forms a relationship with her, but she has to take him to the point where he can go home. It's a really odd film, but brilliant. And Big Trouble in Little China, which I've never seen, but is meant to be such a classic film.
Well, it is, yeah. It is a classic.
But-
Never said it, but it's
But
notoriously.
the reason I love him more than anything, he does well. I love his films. I love the style of his films, but also I love the fact that for the majority of his films, he does the music as well. So
Okay.
you know, he's almost like when you listen to his films, the style of the music he does, it's very sort of particularly his early ones use sort of like these old synthesizers and that. So he almost sort of not quite invented, but very much influenced the sound of a lot of the horror films as well. If you think of like the Halloween has this sort of like piano sort of tune to it, which has been used in all of the later films as well.
Yeah.
And it's just I'll happily listen to the soundtracks that he did as well as watch the films. I think he's an awesome director, really.
Okay. Well, that's a great shout. It's a great shout for a very different reason as well, which I think is good. Well, my one actually links to what we've literally just been talking about, and it's the creators of the Saw franchise, which are James, I want to say Wan, but it's probably Wan, and Lee Wanell. They done that. Now, people, like you just said, you're not a massive fan of it because it is that kind of torture porn. I'm not watching it going, this is great. I'm watching it going, Jesus Christ. Like, it is.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the only films that I remember me and the wife going to see, or at least watching one many, many years ago when like the second or third came out. She said to me, the people who are making this are twisted because they're having them thoughts of, because it's not like it's not kind of too far-fetched that it couldn't have. I mean, when you just think of the premise of the first one, which is a geezer locked up in a bathroom somewhere, and he always got his saw. You know what I mean? And it's kind of it was, but they got worse and worse. You had like some where their heads in some sort of vice and they had to do something before to unlock it or whatever. It just used every time you'd be like on the edge of your seat, going, Jesus Christ, it's not. But most of the time, it did go that extra bit, and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And that for me, like, to get that reaction, and that's purely what it is. I mean, all them other films we talked about, like the Halloween films, where they are intense, and you've got that kind of, if someone's being chased or whatever.
Yeah.
I do feel like with Saw, it went a little bit awry when it got a bit kind of into 4 and 5 and things like that, because then you started having that kind of weird what was it called? It had a name, didn't it? The puppet thing, that was cycling on the bike. Jigsaw, yeah, which is linked to the old man and all that. But then there's been spin-offs of it since then. So you've had a new person take over from the old boy who was the one torturing his baby. But even the concept of the film, I thought, actually, as much as what's happening in it is proper grim, the concept was they were punishing people who didn't appreciate life. Like, it was like someone who wanted to die. And they're like, well, why should you live? I'm not saying I agree with this.
So tomorrow, I'm going to start this.
What a great idea. What a great business opportunity. A culling of... No, but when you think about the reasons behind these people who were picked, like, there was actually... It wasn't like it was random.
Yeah, a bit more substance than just that. I just think with those films, when you start extreme, like, it's that constant battle then to be more and more and more and more extreme. And,
because you become kind of... what's the word to it? You're not as shocked by it unless it's going
to it.
You're desensitized. That's the word.
You just want,
yeah.
No,
so Saw. But that, well, thanks for that question first and foremost, Mark. If you're viewing, if you're listening, let us know who your favourite horror creator is, because there's loads of them out there.
Do
you have another point to make? Oh, sorry.
No, just that you saying Saw links us to something that I spotted in the past week. And it's about something I've been meaning to talk about on the show because it's very much linked to, let's link to Halloween. I'll be honest, this one, that although the subject matter is Halloween related, but more linked to, we talk a lot about technology and sort of new bits and pieces that are around. And there's a thing that is very fashionable, I would describe it at the moment, which are NFTs, which stand for non-fungible tokens, which, if you, it's linked to blockchain and cryptocurrency, but instead of this thing having a value, what it does is the blockchain is basically a big database, and you can create a entry on that database for whatever you want, pretty much, and it will be there for as long as that blockchain exists. NFTs are used for art. It's an image or a video, and it's logged on that blockchain to say that it's created at that point and owned by James. That's the rough idea of it. A good comparison I read the other day from a guy who isn't particularly a fan of these things is it's an updated version of when you could buy your own star. I don't know whether you remember those things where you got a certificate and you named your star, because you don't, like, a lot of these things, and what we'll go on to in a second, a lot of these things, it is basically a JPEG or it's like an MP4 video. It's nothing more than that. But what you're paying for is the fact it's written in this database. So anyone, because they're online, anyone could download that picture, but you've just got the claim, you've got the certificate on the blockchain saying, well, actually, I bought that. So it's like a receipt. So it's a bit of a funny thing. And with certain aspects of the NFTs that have been for sale, they're going for millions. Like it's ridiculous. You've got this stupid picture and people are buying a picture of a rock or like stuff like that just because it's fashionable. However, Saw, as a lot of other brands, are cashing in on this thing because it's popular and people will buy them. And really, they sell them as like digital collectibles in the same way as you buy a pop figure. They try and sell them linked to that. And Saw has released, or I guess the people sort of own the franchise, are selling different items as NFTs. The traps, which you mentioned, are some of them as well. So you're buying basically a picture of the trap, not a real trap, but a picture of the trap.
I was going to say.
Yeah. So when you're setting up your business,
it sets up my business,
which you may remember what these are. You've got a laser collar trap. You've got the bucket head trap. You have a water cube trap, a death mask trap, and a reverse bear trap. And the different items you can buy. And there are certain amounts, like the more common one, laser collar trap, there's 1,000 of them, down to about 600 in the others. But they're still priced like 60 quid to £100, essentially for a picture of a trap is what they're selling, which to me, I'll be honest, it's absolutely ludicrous. The whole concept of it. Because I just don't get what I'm buying. Because when you look at the site that's selling it is called Autograph, which apparently is owned by Tom Brady, who's an NFL player, very famous,
one of the best
guy. When you look on the website to buy these things, literally it's got a video. It's like they're celebrity autographs. It's this little video bit, and it's got like signed by Serena Williams, let's say, someone like that. I can right click and say video as, and I'm getting basically what they're selling. Like, it's no different. That's what you're buying. And but I'd have to pay $100 for that. But why would I pay $100 for that when I can enjoy it? I don't know.
But there's no value behind it then.
Well, I don't see it, but people, because there's only 1,000 of them allegedly logged on the blockchain, and that then gives value to it. But in reality, you could just download that picture. That's where I get sort of a bit lost with this whole thing. However, with the Saw things, there are incentives in terms of if you buy one, you then get access to completely unreleased Saw footage, for example. So there's a little bit of an incentive there in terms of, but surely if you bought a Blu-ray, you'd get like the unseen scenes and stuff like that on it.
Yeah,
But
you'd get all the yeah.
I
It's
don't
a
get
strange
it
thing. Yeah, but I have
personally.
seen a lot of people
Yeah.
talking about them as well. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They are becoming more popular. But again,
Yeah.
if you like that comparison that you said before about buying some sort of moon rock or
Yeah.
a star or a galaxy or whatever, wasn't there one where you could buy a bit of land?
Oh, what about on the moon or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that? Yeah,
I'm sure
exactly.
I've got a bit of land on the moon.
So you need to hold on to that certificate. So when people go to the moon, you can say, "Hang on, that bit,
Get off my land.
that's mine."
Yeah.
I just think it's crazy. That I got some free NFTs recently, which DC Fandom, which was a couple of weeks ago. If you signed up for DC Fandom, you actually got 2 free NFTs. But again, I set it all up and they arrived as such, and they're just 2 videos. It's like 2 videos of like this. It's a floppy disk with a DC character on it. I can download it to my computer, and then I'm like, well, what do I do with this? Fair enough, it's mine, but what is it?
Yeah. Is it a bit like
don't get it.
what's the thing my kids have got that I remember someone, I hope they're not listening because I sound really ungrateful, but someone
You're
got
gonna
them
say it.
like adopt a panda or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm on about? And you'll
Yeah,
get
I know
like
what you
a
mean.
little cuddly
Sponsor a
toy.
panda, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get updates on how it's doing. I think I don't know that you've actually got this.
No. There's some geezer in a council flat that's getting £5 a month.
Yeah, exactly.
Post a picture of
He's
his
got a
panda.
shipment of pandas, cuddly
Google
toy
image.
pandas.
Panda. I'll
Yeah,
send you another picture. Yeah.
yeah. There is that.
I
We
know.
have actually had a response to favourite horror creators. TSO Mac. I'm not really a horror fan, but after watching that Netflix show, I'm with Matt. John Carpenter is my favourite. His music giving him the edge.
Mm,
I think is a great point. It's a really
it
great
does.
point because it shows the guy is multi-talented.
Mm. And it is actually from doing the research that I did see that although at the beginning, like starting with Halloween and that, his films were huge commercial successes, towards the end of his career it drifted off. But because the soundtracks were re-released by sort of, fans of the sort of his music, he then ended up, he's quite old now, I think he's probably in his 70s at the least. In recent years, he's sort of toured with a band sort of playing his stuff and
That's
that.
amazing.
It's reignited his career towards the end of his life, the sort of music side of it.
That's
Yeah,
mad, isn't it? How
really,
mad
really
to have like a spin-off career from it,
Yeah,
or like a second wind as such.
exactly. Definitely is second wind. So, yeah. Wow.
Well, there we go. The second live show in the bag. Halloween special. We'll be back to do another live one. What are we going to do next week live?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
We'll let you know.
Exactly.
Don't call us. We'll call you. But if you've enjoyed the show, thank you for watching it, listening to it. Thank you for joining us. If you've been here live, we appreciate you taking the time out to join us. As I said before, you can find us on all the different socials. If you're watching us on YouTube and you haven't already, why not hit that subscribe button? We are nearly at 100. I keep saying it every week. And the other thing we haven't even mentioned on today's episode is trying to get the Halloween #1 is We Are Twim, our song that me and Matt, mainly Matt, made during our first episode of season 8.
But James did sing on it of sorts, so it's
I did. It was my vocals on it.
We Are Twim. I am Matt Healy. If you type those words into Spotify, Apple Music,
Google,
Amazon
YouTube.
Music, Google Music, YouTube, all of those different sites, you will find the song by us, created by AI with We click the buttons. Yeah, have a listen. See what you think.
Check that out. We have got new merch. I'm not wearing it. Matt's not wearing it, but we've got new merch.
good.
Check it out. It is really good. The link is in our bio. You can find it in the description of this as well, I'm sure. But until next week, Matt, have you got anything you want to say?
No. Apart from
No.
thanks for joining us and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah, we hope you enjoyed it, and we will speak to you all soon.
I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as we did. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our future episodes.
Yeah, and you can also follow us on all social media. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok.